Hello goblins, it's Chris, Eldritch Pipes. It's an episode of this week's Pipes and a tobacco review. And whatever else is fluttering around inside my brain that I deem worthy to tell you about. First things first. I'm smoking blended cut plug. Fribourg and Treyer. So this is the second of the blends that I bought from them. Now, okay, so I'll read the blurb. I found my list again. It says the traditional Virginia flake, aged over several weeks under high pressure. The pressure on the aging ensures a smooth, mellow smoking experience. Well, okay, right. Like the vintage flake, it does come really nicely prepared. Look at those guys. They're just fantastic. I mean, they've really taken care about how these work, and like just nice, coherent flakes. Obviously, you can see there's lots going on in there, a lot of bright Virginia. It doesn't say Cavendish. There aren't any really dark spots, but there are some darker spots, if you know what I mean. Whether that's created from the pressing process, maybe so. Obviously, there's like red Virginias in there as well, but they're just some like darker spots, which ordinarily you might think, oh, that's something else, but apparently just Virginia. So I'm going to put it down to the pressing process. In the tin, really intriguingly, when I first smelled this, I thought, oh, this has got a cherry topping on it. It's really fruity. It doesn't have a cherry topping on it. Don't worry. But it just smells so fruity. Now, I think again, like this vintage flake, I think it has been sweetened, but just barely. When you're smoking it, I'm getting nothing but tobacco flavour. So, okay, right. I've been back and forth with this blend this week. The fruitiness does come through. In the tin, there's like this fruity, nearly verging. Okay, maybe not. I was going to say nearly verging on sour. That's not true. I think maybe earlier in the week it did, but not now. So it is a mellow fruitiness, but it is fruity. It does have these warm toast, dry toast notes, not buttered toast, dry toast. So doesn't feel indulgent. It just feels warm. It has this kind of like really interesting sweet bitter play. If you've ever eaten just unprocessed almonds, the inside of an almond is sort of sweet, not very sweet, but it's naturally sweet. The skin of the almond is bitter, and it's kind of like that, kind of like this a sort of a dry bitterness with a sweet, fruity kind of thing. It almost made me think of like a burnt caramel, sort of when you get the sweet and the bitter. So all of that sounds quite good, and it is. But it's a touch acrid. I'm slightly stung in my nose. Slightly. It's not like in some blends that I've tasted, it's like so much that it's like, okay, I can't smoke that. It's just irritating me too much. This isn't there. It's not there at that level, but it's still making me aware of it. And that's not wholly pleasant. It kind of makes me wish that I was smoking vintage flake. Which I do anyway. And I definitely feel that this has got some aging to do. I think that's where the issue might lie in this blend. I had a brief to and fro text with Chris Ferraby, and my ultimate appraisal was a year in the tin is going to do wonders for this blend. I think it might be really cool after a year or more. Obviously you can do loads more, but at least a year in the tin. It's not quite as mellow as it advertises. And it could do with a little funk. You know, that little fermented funk. It's sort of crying for it. A little complexity. The fruit and the bitter is nice. It works. And the toast sort of fills it out. It doesn't feel like an empty blend. It's got body. It just needs the magic of a little age to mellow it out some more and give it a little funk. That's what I'm saying. But a good blend. Smokes really well. I've had no issues smoking it. You know, well behaved. Produces nice smoke. Again, like vintage flake, I don't feel like I'm smoking hot air, if you know what I mean. So there you go. Vintage blended plug. Although, mind you, I have to, after like singing the praises of vintage flake last week, I'm a little worried now. I think everyone's going and buying vintage flake. I really should have said, oh, it's not very good. I'll only have myself to blame. Alright. Interesting week this week. Amongst making pipes, I've done some other things. I've been getting back into music. Haven't done music in quite a few years. But yeah, suddenly I got inspired. So I got this interface for the PC. I've already had a piece of software called Reaper, which is a music software, desktop music thing. And so yesterday I spent it all writing songs, which was a lot of fun. And also writing scripts. I don't know if I ever mentioned, but I have written the odd script here and there. I can feel this gurgling. I'm going to have to send a pipe cleaner down to rescue it. And my idea was for I don't know, for those of you in the UK, I don't know about outside the UK, but you might remember Sapphire and Steel, which is like a really cool TV series starring Joanna Lumley and David somebody, who I currently forget, but really good. I wanted to write something in that world, so I am. Stay with me. There you go. So that was the good side of this week. The bad side of this week was someone tried to scam me, which more just annoys me than anything else. It really grinds my gears that there are people out there trying to do over just like individual craftsmen. It's not like I'm Google or something. You know, and just trying to like scam me out of a couple of grand or something. It's like, to some people that might be nothing, but to me that's a lot. And so, I mean, it was a really poor attempt to scam me. It was like a PayPal scam. They pretended that they'd paid me, and instead it was like a fake PayPal email, because I didn't get an official notification from PayPal. I'm like, I'm not a fool. Don't try that on me. And anyway, I tried to warn people about it. And then Chris Asquith had someone try to pull one over on him too. So to people out there, if any pipe makers watching this, be careful. They seem to be operating on Instagram at the moment. Little gits. Alright, shall we look at some pipes? Okay. Now, you might remember the story. Last week, I'd confirmed with the customer that I had at the time, that's Clive Elderkin. Clive of the Elderkin. That I was going to make his pipes an author and a Zulu. I probably went ahead and made an author and a reading pipe. I couldn't explain it. Anyway, this week, I was operating on full cylinders. So pretty dang pleased with how this guy came out. Look at the blast. So obviously a contrast blast, when it can be done, can't always be done nicely, but when it can be done, it's kind of stellar. Because you can see the blast bringing out the ring grain. You can see the arc of the ring grain there. And then the colour brings out the straight grain. Which is just a really nice way of showing off the grain of a pipe. This guy has some plateau on the rim. A really cool piece of red Cumberland, where it's really turned out two-tone. Black on the one side, red on the other. There is some red in the black, and there's obviously some black in the red. But that's pretty cool. This is drilled for 6mm. Now, it's worth mentioning this. With the shapes that I do, first of all, not many of them can take a filter. And most of them, if they can only take a 6. It's to do with shank size. There's no way that I can make the pipe like this with a 9mm filter. It would have to be bulked up to accommodate the filter. And then, you know, for me, it's a different aesthetic. On some shapes, it doesn't matter as much as it does on others. For example, there's no acorn that I can make for a 9mm filter. But I can do it with a 6. And in fact, 6mm is what I would usually choose. But there are some pipes, like the Author and the Reading pipe, that I can dink with to do a 9mm. But if I have to do it, 6mm is the preference. But then there are some that won't take it at all. There are some obvious candidates, like the Slender Man can't take a filter. They just know where to put one. I'm just trying to think other shapes that definitely can't take a filter. I'd have to look at my my chart. And second and final pipe this week. I think this must be the 3rd week in a row, something like that, for a black acorn with a blue stem. A lot of people are really liking this combination, and I don't blame them. It's pretty cool. The blast is really nicely detailed. I should say, I think I've replaced just about every part of my sandblast cabinet at the moment. I probably should have just bought a new one at this point. But like a month or two back, I had to replace the lid. And then last week I had to replace the gun because the trigger just fell apart. I was just sandblasting and the trigger just pinged off. So I had to buy a new gun, obviously. This one is the beginnings of craggy. didn't go craggy in the end, but it was starting to go there. Plateau rim. Did I mention that already? I forget. But loads of ring grain. You can see the loads of cross grain, ring grain detail. So there. Another acorn. It just reminded me, I sent some resin samples to China. There's a pipe supplier in China. Seems to be a nice guy. But the last time I sent some samples to him, they just, like, disappeared. And I thought I'd give up, but then I thought, no, I'll send him another one. So I sent another parcel about 2 weeks ago. Now, according to the tracking, it's arrived, but I haven't heard anything from him. So now I'm wondering, I don't know if it's got there or not. I'll have to give him a message. Fingers crossed. All right. That's it from me. I should be back next week with some more pipes. I shouldn't wonder. Yeah. Some more pipes. And then we'll be getting to the end of this month in pipe maker terms. And then I hope you're ready to see a lot of Slenderman. Because it's going to be Slenderman for weeks, all the way. That's just the way it's going to be. So, get used to it. Alright, that's it from me. Till next time, take it very easy. Your loyal pipe maker.